The people who founded NASA are some of the most dangerous and questionable individuals that we had in America's history. It's like the bar from Star Wars. You've got the Nazi leader. You've got the guy who created Scientology. You've got Richard Molina, their spy satellites, which is what that was. It shows that octopus covering the world, and it says, nothing is beyond our reach.
Stanley Kubrick say that he filmed the moon landing in his final will and testament. Buzz Aldrin has said it like 15, 20 times on national TV. He's like, I don't know, I never went.
Neil Armstrong did exactly one interview in the 50 years after that. He drank himself to death.
So that's like not a conspiracy theory anymore. All right. Welcome back to the Rice Report, everybody. Eric Rice here, your host, of course. Totally free option for you guys to watch. One of our favorite guests from myself and from everyone who watched the show, Charlie Robinson, is joining us here today. If you've watched any of our other episodes on my podcast or his podcast, we just kind of freestyle and talk about things. And one of my favorite people out there, because there's no gloves on and there are no boundaries. There's no ring and there's no gloves. It's just let's let it all loose. How are you doing today, Charlie?
Oh, fantastic. How are you enjoying your Psyops these weeks? Because I personally, I'm a bit of a snob when it comes. I demand high quality psychological operations. And these days it feels like the junior varsity team is running it. And I'm a bit offended. So
I am too. Like that meme with the guy holding up the sign, we need better psyops.
Yep.
We definitely need better psyops. And I think there's no more prevalent psyop happening today than Artemis 2. A fantastic correlation of just random numbers. On the 33rd day of the Iranian war, we were launching 322-foot tall rockets into space that plan to re-enter orbit into Earth at Mach 33. All the stuff just seems to be coincidental. By the way, Mach 33, I think, is something like 27 times the speed of light. Light moves pretty quick, and I'm not quite sure human beings can survive Mach 33. How about you? What do you think?
I just want them to keep talking. The more talking they do, the harder it is for them to keep their story straight. You know, NASA has been one of those, one of the threads that I like to pull on that is frustrating but funny at the same time. I don't get as angry about the NASA stuff as I do about the geopolitics that involves death and destruction and wars and all of that. That hurts my soul. The stuff with NASA, to me, is the best on-ramp for newbies, people that are maybe uncomfortable with having a thought that's goes against the grain. But with the moon situation, with all of the science and technology that they roll out there, they make so many mistakes that if you're observant and you notice them, this can be a very fun way to get people to start the concept of realizing, hey, maybe the things that we hear on television or from the government or from the science, the scientists and everything, maybe they're not always true. Maybe sometimes they tell you things to make you think that they're true, or that they make you feel like they're doing something, but in actuality, this isn't really happening. And I had a proud dad moment a couple of months ago when I picked up my daughter from school on a Friday afternoon. My wife was out of town for the weekend, so it was just going to be us and trying to figure out, all right, what are we going to do? Go have dinner, maybe go to a movie or something. First thing she said to me, out of the blue, don't know what was going on at school to trigger this, but she said, "We didn't go to the moon, did we?" And I went, "Oh, I know what we're doing tonight." I got some videos for you to watch tonight. Let's go. So the idea that my 14-year-old daughter is asking questions and saying, the math isn't adding up, and I have questions about this and that. My response was good. I'm glad you're asking questions. I'm glad you're not just taking things at face value. I wish more people would ask questions. I don't think it's disrespectful to ask if what you're being told is the truth or not. I mean, in fact, if it's a lie, then you are right to question it. And when it comes to NASA, however you want to break it down, never a straight answer, need another 7 astronauts, whatever you think the acronym stands for. It is undeniably a cult that has been run by some pretty dark artists that are doing a lot of things. They love to tell you what they're doing with their symbology. the cover of my first book, The Octopus of Global Control, I took this logo. This octopus logo is not mine. It actually was from the National Reconnaissance Office from a mission NROL-39. And that logo with the octopus, on my book cover, it says The Octopus of Global Control. But on their spy satellites, which is what that was, it shows that octopus covering the world, and it says, "Nothing is beyond our reach." So the group that is launching rockets and doing all of this stuff has a very public face to it, which we're seeing, Cape Canaveral and Houston and, NASA and all that stuff. But it's a mask that's being used to hide what's really going on. And the people who founded NASA are some of the most dangerous and questionable individuals that we had in America's history. It's like the bar from Star Wars. You've got the Nazi leader, Werner von Braun. You've got the guy who created Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard. He's involved.
Jack Parsons.
You've got Richard Molina, who had connection. I mean, these guys they were doing all kinds of dark art type work before they launched rockets. So if the general public sees NASA and all they get is the public face, the rockets that go up and what's put on their television, they're just missing so much. And if you like a good mystery, you can dig into all the symbols and all. It's almost like they're trying to tell you something, but they have to do it in a way that isn't so obvious. And so if you understand what their symbols mean, or the patches that they put on their uniforms for each mission and things like that, you can start to decipher what they're really up to. But as far as what they tell general public is happening, it's just a big cover story.
Oh, it's the most glorious adult comedy / soap opera ever. I mean, it's like a boomer theater. Yes. Like I can't even, I don't even know how many times I saw this morning on Twitter, like, oh man, it's just so amazing. We're going back, guys. It's almost like Dumb and Dumber when he's like, we landed on the moon.
Glenn Beck is like, yes, sir. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Like, this is like boomer porn.
Boomer porn. Boomer porn. There it is.
Going back to the moon, baby. All before I pass away, before I have to give my house to my kids. Let's go to the moon one more time, and then.
Well, Werner von Braun, he actually, his story in NASA illuminates a lot of where we are right now. So Werner von Braun was SS in the Nazi military. He was part of Operation Paperclip to come here. But let's talk about the SS. Hitler said specifically he modeled the SS after the Jesuit order, and then he immediately executed 20 Jesuits to say we're not like them. So he's a Jesuit-trained Nazi deceiver that came to America, got $9 trillion in funding now to create this elaborate sound stage and CGI studio that has been used as boomer porn to extract tax, because people don't care. They're like, listen, I'll pay another 5% in taxes as long as we go to Mars. We don't even know if Mars exists. We don't know. We don't know anything. They seem to know what they want us to know. But Jack Parsons confessed to being a sex magic occultist. He confessed to it. L. Ron Hubbard, you don't need to dig. If you've done any Scientology dig, you don't need to go further than that. All Freemasons, by the way, all occultists, and everything they have is 33 and 322. So you have Skull and Bones, Freemasonry. It's just hilarious. But I found it interesting that in the middle of this launch to the moon is that some people are starting to figure out how rockets actually work. What happens is, where I'm at here, they go up, and then they go sideways, and then they disappear. They don't actually continue to go up. They all end up diverting sideways. Why are they going sideways? Perhaps it's because of Werner von Braun's gravestone, which had Psalm 19:1, which talks about the firmament that shows God's glory in the sky. Listen, we don't know, but for anyone watching this who's into like, no, these guys are crazy, because Charlie, there still are a lot of people like this who will not question anything. We don't care what your opinion is of us. Number one, we just want you to look at things and challenge it. Like simple things like, who was the guy filming the moon landing? Who was the guy on the moon filming the guy's landing? How could that be possible? Why were there no shadows? There's no shadows in a movie studio. Why did Stanley Kubrick say that he filmed the moon landing in his final will and testament? These are questions people should be asking, right?
Yeah.
And they're all logical.
Yeah. And once you pull on one little thread, kind of leads you down a path that you start to ask questions. Well, if this is a lie, you know, what else is a lie? What are they doing? What is the purpose of this? I think the Freemason component is important, you know, and if you want to take a look at, you know, some of the previous space missions and everything, there's two components of the first moon landing story that have always struck me as being hard for them to explain. First of all, when the guys came back from the moon and they landed in the capsule in the ocean, and they were immediately scooped up and they were put in this quarantine. It looked like a car. It looked like the size of a box car or something, right? And it had a window on the side, and they're basically in the quarantine for a couple days while they settle down. Not a single one of them had stubble. Yeah. They were all clean shaven the second they got out of that capsule. Were you shaving on the moon? Nobody ever asked them that question. I went, why are you guys all clean shaven? You should have 3 or 4 days of growth here if you've been to the moon and coming back. I mean, unless you guys packed a razor and you did that and let all the debris fly. Come on. And
good question. Never thought about that.
Something that I had a problem with. And but the one that really struck me, and it's actually the least scientific of my thoughts on this, was the press conference. It was the press conference that the three of them had, and we've all seen it. They're sitting at a table next to each other. One of them's playing with a pen. He's bored out of his mind. They're all looking down. They all look like they've seen a ghost. And they're talking about the most important achievement in the history of human beings. They did it. Those three guys did it. And they looked like they were hostages.
Totally.
And so I don't know how you're supposed to behave when you've just come back from the moon, because I haven't been to the moon and I can't say for certain.
Neither have they. They don't know.
But it's not that.
Right.
It's not that. If you came back from really going to the moon and you would have a lot to say. This would be the most important. How come they all turned into alcoholics? How come Buzz has been trying to tell people for years? He wound up in Antarctica, had that weird medical incident there, saying they're alive, they're going to kill us, they're going to kill us all. He freaks out in Antarctica. So we've got Freemasonry running through. We've got incompatible behavior in the aftermath of completing the most important achievement in human history. You act like you would rather be anywhere else, but then Neil Armstrong did exactly one interview in the 50 years after that. He drank himself to death. Why would you do that? Why would you do all these things if you were such a hero? Unless maybe you weren't. Unless maybe you knew that the whole thing was a lie. You knew that the rest of your life, you were going to have to tell that lie. Everybody was going to treat you so well, and you knew it was nonsense. I mean, if you're a good, decent person and you realize you have to carry that burden, and it's you can never undo it. You can never say we didn't go. You're dead. Everybody else is dead. Everybody else's family's dead. We're killing everybody. If one person talks, everybody's gone. You understand that? Those guys know. They're all military. They know what happens. They knew it. They knew the job was dangerous when they took it. You know, but that is, we now look back on this, on the moon landing, the greatest achievement in the history of mankind. How do you think how do you think people in other countries view that? They must be looking at that going, you people in America are out of your mind. You're deluded. You still think you win? You still think you did all this? You know, the thing about the Soviet Union with Pravda and the propaganda campaign that I found out later was that the people who lived there, they knew it was nonsense.
Yep.
It didn't work on them because they knew it was nonsense. And what they'll tell you is the Americans are the most propagandized people because it hasn't crossed their mind that they might be getting lied to. That makes them way more susceptible to the propaganda because it's just not on their radar that this could be misinformation. So we're in a world with people that, you know, back then, my mom, I red pilled my mother. But that was the one thing she had a hard time with. She was like, can you just give me that? She joked about it. She goes, could you just give me that one? Can you just let me have that one?
No.
Like, fine, I can let you have it, but it's not true. I think it should matter if it's true or not true, because especially America, we're like, look how great we are. We landed on the moon. We can do anything. It's like, that whole story is not true, guys. Like,
And admitted by many people that have admitted that they were part of it, that it was not true. Buzz Aldrin has said it like 15, 20 times on national TV, and people still don't believe it.
yeah,
What was this on Leno or Conan O'Brien or something? And he's like, what was it like being on the moon? He's like, I don't know. I never went. He
yeah.
literally said it on TV.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
I valet parked his car one time in '92 when I was 20 years old. He was in Laguna Beach, and his license plate was Moon Guy, and his wife's was Mars Gal.
Oh
Those are
my
there, and it
God.
was in Laguna Beach, California. Valet parked. Holy shit, you're Buzz Aldrin.
I met him in Orange County too. And I mean, way later, like, I don't know, I want to say 2017 or 2016. He was a speaker at a conference I was at.
Yeah.
And just got to shake hands with him.
Hey,
Very odd guy.
I want to meet the guy who didn't go to the moon. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Well, back then actually maybe it was like 14 or 15. Back then I wasn't even thinking this way. Like I was a normie. Like I was, well, I've never been a normie because like my, you talked about your kids. My daughter failed her World War II test. Okay.
Nice.
She had to retake her World War II test and learn the propaganda to
You're like, honey, listen, sometimes in life, failing is not a failure.
Yeah. I was like, listen, I'm proud of you, but you have to learn the propaganda or you're not going to be in 8th grade. Sorry, it's just not going to happen. You need to progress. Let's talk about Iran. Let's move in Iran because I think that is, I don't think there's any coincidence in timing. This Artemis launch, when did they announce it? Like 30 days ago? Like nobody knew this rocket was launching last year.
No.
Nobody knew it was happening. Does anyone actually recall when they said, hey, we're going to launch another trip, quote unquote, another trip to the moon? Do you remember when that came out at all? Because I can't recall any press release at all going back further than 30 days talking about this launch. Do you?
No. And I would have been paying attention. I mean, I thought I was paying attention to it.
You always do. Yeah.
But not like I was studying it or anything, but I figured I would have heard that something like this was coming. And they would want to promote it too. This is not like, it's a great opportunity for NASA. They haven't had anything to, any sort of victories in a while. This is a good one for them to promote. I would think that it would be a big deal, that it would be on every, yeah. And it really kind of like, I mean, I know when a concert in my area is coming, but I don't know that we're sending people back to the moon. How is that possible that wasn't just broadcast?
How did it slip through both of our networks?
Yeah, I don't know.
Nobody. Like we literally are people who talk about the moon landing being fake for years now. Everyone who knows us we talk about this. Oh, I didn't hear about this from anyone for more than a month ago.
No.
So this morning, the negotiator for Iran was blown up, the third negotiator. They didn't blow him up this time. They just got his wife, which will probably be really good for negotiations.
Yeah.
But this is now the third. It was blamed on Israel, which I have no doubt that it was Israel. But now this is the third negotiator trying to create peace in Iran that has been blown up. Perhaps, perhaps that was Artemis too. Perhaps they launched it for him. I'm just joking on that. It's certainly not Artemis 2. We would have seen that because NASA would have told us that they could land it exactly where they wanted to. Right. But I find it very circumstantially suspect that a random rocket launch, it's not like we launched to go to the space station or to put another satellite in. We're talking about making an orbit around the moon and coming back. 1 month ago, we are in day 34 of the Iranian war, which to this day, no one, except the only justification for it is Iranians bad. Eventually, maybe 100 years from now, they're going to come after America. Good luck. No chance of the Iranians ever conquering America. Zero chance of them conquering our military ever on our own ground. They can defeat us there, not here. We have Pete Hegseth saying that they do not have a single missile that can reach our borders. He has said that. And in the middle of all this, we have massive amounts of turmoil happening in the oil and gas markets. I'm in those markets. I see them daily. It's good for us. Like, I'm happy. We're making a lot more money. It's cost me a little bit more to mine Bitcoin with off-grid energy, but for the oil and gas sales, that's fantastic for us. Markets are completely controlled by tweets, whether it's from Trump or from the Iranian president, who no one in Iran respects the Iranian president. I learned that from an Iranian 2 days ago. So the guy who they're talking to, zero people in Iran have respect for this guy. Their president, not the prime minister or the supreme leader. The new supreme leader is just the son of the old supreme leader. And the negotiator was blown up speaking to Pakistan on the phone while he's on the phone with Pakistan this morning. What the hell is going on here, Charlie? in your opinion? We have no idea, but in your opinion.
Yeah, they don't. Well, they don't want peace. We know that.
Yeah.
They better be careful, because this is one of these wars where it's, the way that Americans are spinning it is, we're going to keep going against Iran until we decide that the war is over. Well, how do you know that you're the ones that are going to make that decision? Because
right.
I think that Iran might make the decision of when the war is. You may decide when the American empire is leaving and going back home, but that doesn't mean that the war is over. The countries, the facilities that are in that region, they're still very much open to strikes. And I think that this is, Israel wants this war. 100%. They've wanted this for a long, long time. and I think a case can be made that this has been a 40-year project to grab Trump, to put him under their control. 80s, 90s, you're building buildings in New York City. Who are you borrowing money from? The Italian mafia? No, the Jewish mafia. You're getting it from the banks. That's why Wilbur Ross at Rothschild had to handle your bankruptcies, because you were borrowing money from them and you got on the wrong side of it. So he's been doing business deals with these guys for 40 years. And it feels like the Trump project, the Zionist Trump project, has been something they've been working on for a long, long time. They sent a torpedo in there, an Israeli spy, to marry his daughter, right? Who's now his handler. You've got his son marrying into the tribe. You've got, it's merging. Yep. And he is becoming a Zionist, whether he is a Zionist or whether he admits it or not. His behavior is the same. So we're in a place where the American military maybe doesn't want another war, but unfortunately Donald Trump and his Israeli handlers do. And it's at a point now where, if the general public had a say in this, I would think that it's a deeply unpopular war. As you mentioned, we're not even really sure why we're there. It's one thing if it's 9/11 and 9/11 wasn't what it appears to be, but whatever. It was at least a thing. And it was a thing that you could rally around the flag, or rally around the false flag in that case. But it was a thing. With the Iran situation, grab the average person and say, what did they do to us? Why are we mad at them? Who's in charge of their country? Tell us why we hate them. Tell us you don't really know. Nobody has a good answer. There isn't a good answer. Iran hasn't been doing anything to us. That the true answer is that Israel is threatened by Iran, so we need to take them out at the behest of Israel. And I think,
and there's no disputing that's the only answer. In anyone who's being honest with himself, that's the only roundabout answer.
And now, as of a month ago, we can fully cross off our bingo card of 7 countries in 5 years, although now it's 25 years. So it had always been theoretical. It was the 6th, but they didn't get the 7th one. Well, now they got it. So now does it make sense when General Wesley Clark says in Democracy Now! In 2007, when he talks about going upstairs and getting the paper from the Secretary of Defense, and that we're going to 7 countries in 5 years. We've now hit all 7 of those countries. Who does that benefit?
Not us.
America? Not America. Or Israel? It's all Israel, right? So I think that we've been screaming about it for a while, just, because we see what we see. But the general public now is starting to ask questions. And I think you can see the play coming to try and manage that by what Larry Ellison is doing with buying up all the media. First it was TikTok, now it's Paramount, Skydance, now it's HBO, Cinemax, all that stuff, right? Why are they doing that? What does Larry Ellison, he's got $400 billion worth of Oracle stock. Does he need to make more money on buying TikTok? Nope, no. It's not about that. It's not about making money.
He's a major shareholder in X, by the way. Most people forget that. He's a major shareholder in X.
I didn't even know that.
Yep.
Oh, shit.
He was one of the first guys that Musk went to for money when he bought it. I shouldn't say he's a major. I think he's like the 4th or 5th in the pecking order. But yeah, he still has his hands in it.
Board. I would imagine at that point. Holy moly! Well, that's it. So control the narrative. Especially if it's going to be, if you're involved in a deeply unpopular war where you started it off by bombing a school with a bunch of young girls in it. Oh, and then denying it and then saying Tomahawk missiles could come from anywhere. That was there's never a great start to a war, but that was a particularly bad start to the war from the optic standpoint. Obviously, on a on just the level of your soul, it's terrible when you that. But you've been taking a look at it from the American side of things, from an optics standpoint. That's a catastrophe. Your president is then denying it and lying about it and minimizing it and doing things like that. So you're already
the exact opposite of what people want, right?
The opposite is the opposite. Yeah. And we got spoiled for a while, and we can say what we want about Obama, and we know about his real nature of him. But there were times when he was in front of the microphone where I think he believed it. He was such a good liar that you almost want somebody to deliver the news. And you almost feel like we talk about high quality psyops. Like, it's a higher quality psyop when the president knows how he speaks in a way that gets you enthusiastic and wow, motivated and inspired and all this stuff. Even if he's describing the war, but he's laying it out. What does Donald Trump do? He comes out and it's cartoonish. He calls people cowards and stupid and says we're going to bomb them back to the Stone Age. And it's real juvenile. It's really unbecoming of a president. And I don't know, that's kind of a cliche kind of a statement in and of itself. But it just feels like the American empire has been turned into this cartoonish, villainous, parody
WWE villain.
Yeah, really, just almost like, and I wonder about this. This is more in your area of expertise than mine. But when Israel starts talking about prophecy and they start talking about how they need to rebuild the third temple and everything, there's a component of that where they need to be hated by the world first. And I'm going, well, if that's what you're trying to do, maybe this makes a little bit more sense. So do you think that could be part of it as well? Because the behavior is so overly grotesque by the Israelis and what they're doing. And I feel like they could hide that better if they wanted to. Maybe they can't. I don't know at this point. But it's out in our face. It's making us hate them. And then I hear that, oh, well, that actually is kind of a component that we need in order to trigger end times and then the third temple and all of that. Is that part of what they're doing? Are they trying to make the world hate them?
Sure. Yeah, no, there's certainly a false Armageddon being set up. I mean, if you go back to the 1830s when the Zionism term came, actually the term Zionist actually started with Napoleon. When he freed Jews in Italy, he noticed they had these yellow bands and yellow hats with the Star of Remphan, David, on them. And he said, you guys should have your own country. You're being oppressed. And he set the Jews free in Europe. And he was the one who started the whole thing, give them back their Holy Land. In the 1830s, you start seeing Moses Hess and then Theodore Herzl and some other guys. Theodore Herzl, by the way, wrote in his diary 6 or 7 different times he wished he was Catholic, and he met with the Pope multiple times. Why is the Pope meeting with a Jewish Zionist? Why is the Pope currently meeting with all the heads of AI? Why is the Pope currently meeting with every Protestant leader in the world? These things are happening. They're verifiable. You can look them up for yourself. But you have this 1830s movement towards maybe the Jews who've been persecuted everywhere. Have they been persecuted? Or have they been prosecuted? That's really the question you have to ask throughout history, because there's many groups like this, the Knights Templars, the Jesuits, all these people have been persecuted for confirmed nefarious things that they've done, ranging from black magic to blood libel to usury to all across the board. And when you look at the history of this, you have the 1830s moving into the late 1800s where Zionism became an actual term people were using. That's also around the time they first started using the term Judeo-Christian. So they were building this coalition of Christian and Jews, which like Fox News is hilarious because they have commercials for the coalition of Christians and Jews that never raise money for Christians. It's always for the poor Jews. The Jews aren't poor, okay? They get money from everywhere. And from every country in the world, they all give money to Israel for some reason. And then you start looking at like the Schofield Bible. Now, people say they changed scripture. The Schofield Bible did not change scripture. It was a reference Bible. So in Genesis, where it talks about those who bless Abraham will be blessed and those who curse Abraham will be cursed, it says in his reference notes below it, what God actually meant by this was Israel 40 years before it was a nation again. Then you have World War I. You have the transition to Palestine, where you had Jews reclaiming Palestine on the Balfour Declaration from the Rothschilds. And then you have this Balfour Declaration giving them the rights. So the reality is the Palestinians opened their homes. And they said, hey, welcome home. They gave them their homes. The Jews coordinated a day where when all the Palestinians went to work, they locked the doors, stole their homes. There was no strife in the Middle East before 1917. There was none. It was a peaceful place. Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived together. Then you had this demand for land back, which God removed. He created a spiritual third temple, which the believers of Christ are comprised of. That is the third temple. It is not physical. They interpret everything in Scripture to be literal and physical, just like the Jews of the Old Testament did. Jesus can't be the Messiah because he's not a warrior conquering the Romans. Oh, he's just doing this little thing called saving your soul for eternity, just a tiny little thing. And now you have the World War II, which, World War II is being used as tremendous psyop to rebuild fascism, the demand for fascism around the world, because you have these documentaries that are telling the truth about the mechanics of World War II, which were completely opposite of what you were told in school. But at the end of the day, they're also making Hitler look like he was the national savior. He also was a puppet.
Yeah.
Also, we cannot prove, but it is very, very well put together case that he is a bastard Rothschild kid, that he has Jewish roots. Number one, he was Austrian, not German. That doesn't mean a whole lot to me. But at the same time, Hitler is the one who created Israel. He is the one who signed the agreement to take 60,000 Jews from Germany and transition them to Israel. The final end result of World War II was the creation. The only two winners in World War II, provable winners, because a war has very simple way of determining who won a war. He who gains land and he who gains power. America gained nothing. The Bolshevik Revolution spread throughout all of Eastern Europe, took over many nations. They built a wall showing you their new kingdom, right? They built the damn wall to show you the kingdom. And then the Zionist state of Israel was created. Now, all of these people will blame it on this group or that group. These are multiple groups that are building these actors and building the stage and building the narrative. And it was built way ahead of time. So if we look at how are they using this prophecy? Well, it's false prophecy taught by false teachers who reconstructed eschatology away from the historicist point of view that identified papal Rome or the papacy as the little horn prophecy of Daniel and papal Rome as the beast of Revelation. So it's a very well documented. There's so many good podcasts about this. I'm not the best podcaster for it, but there are so many good things that say that the war that we're in right now is the end of a war that began with Martin Luther. Entire point has been this. And I was just in San Angelo's castle in Rome in the room of Pope John III, who organized the Counter-Reformation against Luther. This is not like a make-believe tale. You have one religion. There was only, if you were Christian until the 1500s, you were Catholic. You didn't read the Bible because they didn't print the Bible in your language. They had it to themselves in Latin. So the Protestant reformers used history to identify their version of the beast. And I have eschatological debates with people all the time. And the one thing I say is, none of us know. None of us know. So stop debating that and learn to live by what Jesus taught you. Love God above all. Love your neighbor. Life is pretty simple. The world's going to end when it ends. We have no way of speeding it up or slowing it down. That's what the Jews believe. They're synergists, that they can do things to speed up or slow down prophecy. That's not what Christians believe. We believe we live.
Is it any surprise to you? Because they're also constantly trying to rewrite the rule book with God, get around it and do the things like having the Shabbat Goy turn the lights on for you, or putting the wire around New York City, because then we're not technically out of this, we're in our home, and all these technicalities. You're trying to beat God on technicalities and everything like that. It just seems to me like that's incompatible. That's not in line with the message, right? No. You shouldn't be looking for loopholes to get out of the rules of your God. If you're really on board with this whole thing, it's an incompatible culture for me. I'm not particularly religious, and I don't have, I don't care one way or the other, but that group seems to use their religion as a shield. Yes. To deflect from righteous criticism of their behavior. And that if you were to, I don't know, it just seems like a very disrespectful thing to do, to use your religion, say, well, don't blame me. It's my religion instead.
Well, most of them are atheists though, Charlie. Like if you look at the polling in Israel, the majority of Israelis are atheist Jews. So they're claiming to be Jewish by blood, not by religion. That's their claim. But in reality, most of them are Eastern Europeans.
Yeah.
They are Ashkenazi. That is not Hebrew, and that is not Israelite. So there's a big Israel's like, we could do a 15-hour episode on Israel. I can walk through all this stuff. But the reality is that eschatology views were they've always been differentiated, right? Since the book of Revelation and Daniel were ever printed and circulated around the world, people have had different points of view, and they're always going to have different points of view until it's over with. And people go, oh, that was the one that was right. But we won't be worried about that because we'll be in paradise and not concerned with the pain of the past. So it's kind of an irrelevant conversation. But what it is a very good weapon, because eschatology and the fear of the end of the world drives emotion. Yeah. So when you have emotion behind it, look at all the prophets, quote unquote prophets, PROFITs, that are on YouTube right now. Everybody's a prophet. There's all this prophetic word. This is a prophecy. A fake assassination attempt is a prophecy. Everything's a prophecy. So when you have people caught up in prophecy and being aligned with, we have to do God's will now. We've been sinners our whole life. We have to do it now. Now you have a controllable group of people that don't really have a background in what the Word of God actually says. Yeah. And the people who do understand the Word of God, who I know very well, not a single one of us are concerned at all. And I like when I have debates with people about eschatology, at the end, I start laughing halfway through it. And I'm like, guys, this is the most ridiculous conversation. You think the beast is this guy, and you think that Nero was the Antichrist, and it ended in Jesus came back in 70 AD, when there's absolutely no proof of that anywhere in the world outside of Scripture, which you would have somebody who's been like, yeah, you know what? I saw Christ return, or I was there when it happened, and they wrote a book, and or as a oral, there's none of that. So you went from this eschatological view that was like, the end times. In reality, the end times began at the empty tomb. Okay, that's when it is finished. The old covenant is finished on the cross, and then Christ returns. That's when the end times begins. Now he's sitting on a throne right next to God. He is God. He's sitting next to him, ruling over the earth. So over this period of time, the Protestant reformers looked at it and said, well, you can see that there were 10 kingdoms in Europe. 3 of them were uprooted. The Pope was removed in 1898, and there's this exactly 1,260-year period of papal control of the powers of the earth. So that wasn't flying in that space. So then you had a bunch of Jesuit influencers that came into Christianity and started influencing eschatology, which now you have thousands of end times versions, including L. Ron Hubbard, right, with the return of the spaceship and all this stuff. So when people look at this fantasy of trying to understand God's timing, it's confusing to humanity anyway. Should be focusing on the core teachings of Christ, not so much the revelation or the end times. But they use it as a weapon, Charlie. I do all the time.
We're wired to want to predict the future. It feels like we're trying to see where this train is going, and we're trying to extrapolate out where this is going. But you know what really cripples that process is fear. Yeah. Is getting people in this low vibrational state 100%. Where they're terrified of, they don't know if there's going to be a tomorrow. And in doing that, you make short-term decisions, because who cares about the future? That's why they know that once the shooting starts of the war, the plans go out the window. Everybody, things change. You thought about what you might do in the event of a war with Iran for 10 years, right? You speculated about that. When the firing starts, as Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? So that's what happens once this kicks off. Then people get very fearful. We've got to stay alive, right? And then at that point, there goes the long-term decision-making of, well, what is this going to do to the region if we take out all the desalination plants and knock out all the oil? What's that going to do worldwide 5 years from now? Are we going to have a famine? Who cares? I might not make it tomorrow. So that's the decision making. That creates huge problems where or
I'll be called up in the clouds before it happens, and I'll never experience any of that. These are all a friend of mine who's
my problem. Not going to be. I'm not going to have to be here to worry about that stuff. So everybody's got a different calculation to make, and if you're scared, there's a tendency to want to outsource the protection to somebody else, somebody who knows it better or is stronger or has better weapons or whatever. And the government, of course, understands how the psychology of human beings work and how fragile we are and how we get in large groups and we panic and in knowing how we behave and maybe, running a test test run in 2020,
Mhm.
see how people behave when they're locked down, right? You then take that information and make some adjustments and maybe relaunch it in the future. Maybe you relaunch lockdowns, the concept of lockdowns, again from 2020, knowing what you learned the first time. Right now, you do it in 2026. It's not climate, it's not COVID like lockdowns, it's climate lock, it's energy lockdowns. Hey, listen, I mean, we're just not getting the oil that we used to get, so we have to be smart about this. You're going to have to turn your lights off. You're going to have to work 4 days a week instead of 5. You're going to have to go to the gas station with odd number license plates on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, that gets normalized, and you think it can't happen, but it can, because you would have never in a million years believed somebody who told you that social distancing and closing down skate parks and bulldozing sand into skate parks and fining surfers for not wearing masks. You would have thought, none of that stuff's going to happen. That's crazy. It all did.
Yep.
So just imagine what if the war isn't even the point? What if the lockdowns are the point? The future lockdowns that we haven't even experienced yet, that you get into this summer and they go, Strait of Hormuz is still shut down. Oil's not flowing. Asia's in a huge catastrophe. They're not getting their oil. North America's doing better, but we still have problems. And but we're going to have to lock down. We're going to have to be mindful of the amount of energy that we use. And they can do that.
Philippines, Malaysia, Australia, there's a lot of places, and that's a reality. Like, most of their oil does come through that strait. We don't have that I see it all the time. It's not going to happen here. We're not going to have energy lockdowns. We have plenty of refineries and plenty of our own oil.
But we shouldn't have energy lockdowns because we have plenty of it. Now, whether we will or will not, I guess that depends on who's in charge of it. How scary it gets.
We may have other issues, and we probably will. But Michael Yon, I don't know if you follow Michael Yon. He's been talking about the construction of famine for the last 2 years. And he was on my show, I don't know, 6 months ago. And he said point blank, like, I give credit where I'm just trying to call balls and strikes. He was on my show 6 months ago, and he said, I guarantee you by the end of 2026, the Strait of Hormuz will be shut down. He said it right on. You can go look at the clip. And I go, well, what's the point in that? And he goes, famine. And he didn't even talk about oil or gas. He talked about urea. He's like, it's for the crops. Yeah. And he talked about Greenland and how there's a strait that runs through Europe right there. He's like, Greenland's important, not for resources, because it controls that strait. That's another area where food resources come from. The cattle from Denmark and all that kind of stuff. That to me was ridiculous at the time. I always listen to Michael, of course. I mean, he's a smart guy. But at that time, I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. And everything he said has happened. Literally, screw worms attacked cows in Texas. When we look at this war, the war is never the intention unless we're attacked. So people are sitting here, NATO's going to dissolve. NATO's going to dissolve anyway. The UN's going to dissolve anyway. It's now being called a board of peace. Right? That it's just a new NATO. So what'll be the next, or the new UN? What'll be the next NATO? That's what they're building now, because NATO will dissolve. In fact, NATO actually is following their protocol. It's a defense pact. It's not an offensive gang tackle of anyone you want. NATO was designed for us to defend each other if we were attacked. If America was never attacked in this war at all, not once. Iran has, the justification is they killed some of our guys in 1983. Well, who didn't kill some of our guys in the last 30 or 40 years somewhere around the world? You can tie it back to anybody you want to. It's just another reason to have a war. And at the end of the day, everything we talked about, Charlie, provides zero value to the middle class and lower class of American workers. Yeah. Zero. None. In fact, it makes it worse.
Everything's worse. Everything. Yeah, that's who feels it. That's who is always going to feel it. The people who are on a budget, who can't account for a 30% increase in fuel costs, which, they may say, well, I don't drive much. Yeah, but the people who build the things that you need or deliver it, they do. Yep. And it's all going to get priced in. And whether you think it's, that's the thing, is you can, on a day-to-day safety standpoint, you can say that war over there realistically isn't going to impact me. They're not going to drop a bomb on me. That's just the reality of my situation. But it's not possible for me to say it's not going to impact me at all, because it most definitely will. It's going to be in the way that, we'll feel it economically. It might be in the form of restrictions on our freedoms for some reason, because they'll justify it somehow in the form of some sorts of lockdowns or what we,
New
how much energy we
surveillance.
can and can't use. We know that with Agenda 2030, they're very hyper focused on trying to control our energy usage and eat the bugs and all that good stuff. Now, I think they can aspire to do that, but I don't know that that's a foregone conclusion that they're
No
going
one's
to get
eating
us all
bugs.
nobody's eating bugs. But
There's
the idea,
484 million guns in this country. We'll just go shoot a deer.
for sure. But I wonder if that messaging is even for us. I think it might be for like a segment of the population that's just kind of like asleep at the wheel, and they go, "Oh, bugs are, whatever." So I don't know if I get too
Cricket
angry.
protein's on the rise, though. I will say that I have a friend who runs a cricket protein company,
Really?
which I thought was the most ludicrous idea in the world. Like, no one's ever going to buy this stuff. What it's cricket protein is, if you go to a Seattle Mariners game,
Mhm.
it's in a lot of their products. Like, they sprinkle it on everything for increased protein on hot dogs and stuff like that. So like, I know that that's really happening. I know it's at the Seattle Mariners ballpark, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
Perfect sense.
totally.
Like Bill Gates is like, yes, how do I invest in this cricket protein? Can I fake the protein? Can I?
I'll see if they have it tomorrow. I'm going to the Rockies home opener tomorrow, so I'll see if they.
I think it's called a Aketa. Like, look for. I think it's called a Aketa is what cricket protein's called.
I'll watch. They'll sneak it in there. They'll get you to eat the bugs if they can. And this, I guess, it comes back to what? Consent.
Yep.
Our approval, us allowing them, and then now we're on some spiritual contract basis that most people have no idea is even happening. It's like, we're going to tell you what we're going to do to you, and then if you do nothing about it, that's on you. And everyone,
And the people telling you are anointed by God. How many times have you heard the phrase "anointed by God" in the last 6 months? It is everywhere. How many military and politicians now are praying and talking about God all the time? Like, listen. One of the most profound statements I've heard was yesterday driving my car. I was listening to, I don't remember his podcast. I was listening to a podcast, and the guy said, never underestimate the devil's ability to take good and make it evil, just as much as you should never underestimate God's ability to take evil and turn it to good. We only think of the one side. We never think of the other. And I've been talking about this Christian nationalist movement, that it's actually not Christianity. God never told you to take up arms and conquer the enemy by blood. In the Old Testament, Jesus didn't tell you that, and that covenant's dead. It is finished. So we are living in this era where religion is being used as a weapon and a motivating force. And Charlie Kirk's probably the prime example of this. Whoever Charlie Kirk really was behind closed doors is not, I have no clue. I never met the guy. I liked what he had to say. He was clearly a Zionist. And then at the end, he was clearly an ecumenist. He was like, well, yeah, maybe I'll pray the rosary, or, like, you got to remember 500 years ago, Catholics would have burned a Protestant at the stake. Like, that was the case. And now it's all blending together. I've been, even on your show, I talked about this ecumenical world order, where they're going to blend all the religions for social control while they embed technology to run everything. That's going to happen. I have no doubt that's going to happen. But I found something interesting the other day. I was listening to another guy. God, I wish I could remember. I listen to your show and a few others, but like, I don't really, some people like, check this out. And I try to listen to it. And one of them was going through research on Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's the perfect martyr. You have a bunch of young people who are trying to find God in their life because there's been zero purpose. If you look at the dialectic and how it's been played, you've lived in a godless, atheist environment where boys can be girls, all this stuff, just all nonsense. So it pushes you to this desire to, like, I want purpose. I don't want to live in this materialistic world that believes in this nonsense. Now they're right at the cusp, and you kill their religious leader in public, and you anger them, and you get them to become angry about that, to make a movement to force God on everyone. God never told you to govern religion, and religion by itself is a misconstruction of faith. And Charlie Kirk's a perfect thing. So I stayed away from that whole topic. Just stayed away. Now, I did hear this on a podcast, and I looked it up last night. And one thing that was really strange to me is, did you know a couple things I did not know this podcast shared with me? Number one, Robert Kirk, Charlie Kirk's father, was one of the architects of Trump Tower. Did you know that?
I did know that, but I didn't know it at the time. That was something that happened like after his shooting. I heard about that. I was like, wait a second, that's kind of a weird disclosure. Yeah.
And that building by itself has an upside down pyramid. It's 666 feet tall. Trump has like if you watch The Devil's Advocate, like the one thing about this whole Trump is our savior movement, which may or may not be true, time will tell, right? Like I don't sit here and say you're wrong, I'm right, because we don't know. Only time will tell. God can do anything. But if you look at The Devil's Advocate, there's a scene that was filmed in his house with a black and white checkerboard dance floor. That's in his penthouse. That is confirmed. That is so it's a Masonic floor. He's got a big golden statue of Apollo in his house. Very odd. By the way, in the Sistine Chapel, the image of Jesus Christ with big muscles and a six-pack, I just went to the Vatican. They admitted that is not Jesus. That is the face of Apollo that Michelangelo painted on it. The sun god is in the Sistine Chapel. And that's from the Vatican guide tour, the tour guide. So that's like not a conspiracy theory anymore. And in the middle of all this same podcast was like the one thing this Trump will say everybody, like nobody really did research on Trump. You were researching everyone else, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, the Shahs, the mullahs, all this other stuff. You never really dug. Like I didn't. And this guy went back to Frederick Trump, who is the grandfather of Donald Trump. I had no idea who Frederick Trump. I knew he obviously has a grandfather, but Frederick Trump dodged the draft in Germany in the 1800s, moved to America, started a bunch of hotels and brothels, literally brothels, made a fortune, transferred the money to Trump's father, who became a real estate mogul, and then you have like the Trump empire began with brothels.
Perfect.
Like I had no idea, and I thought this. I always listen. And I'm like, I'm not a pro or anti anything. I just want the truth.
Me too.
And I looked at it and I was like, the Trump people are gonna be like, that's not true. Look it up, dude. Like, look up Frederick Trump. Go to I did it on Grok of all places. Go to Grok and it'll say, yeah, he had hotels and brothels, but it's okay because at that time it was a different culture and brothels were kind of accepted for guys who were mining gold, and it's a gold rush, and like I don't care how you put it, you're trafficking women for other men to pay to have sex with. Like that's just a fact. These women aren't like waking up one day and go, God, I wish I was a hooker at a gold mine. That would be just an incredible life. Like, it's weird. Like everything's weird, Charlie.
John Trump, his uncle, and having the connections into Tesla and taking Tesla's technology, and you start going, were there any other people in existence? Or is it just all these families? Were these all that there was? Because the same families from 100 years ago are still pulling operations now. Like, what's happening here? I think that once you have the eyes to see it, they kind of jump out at you and these connections sort of illuminate themselves and you go, oh yeah, I know who that guy is. That guy, people go, oh, I can't believe Trump would be friends with a guy like Jeffrey Epstein. It's like, do you know who Trump's lawyer was in the 80s? It was Roy Cohn. He was Jeffrey Epstein before Jeffrey Epstein was Jeffrey Epstein. You know what I mean?
Who his brother-in-law's father was? Or his son-in-law's father was? He was Epstein before Epstein.
Yeah, exactly. Son-in-law went to prison. His dad went to prison for sexually entrapping his uncle or something, like a family member. So this idea,
that's who they have Thanksgiving with. That's Thanksgiving dinner. Like I never, for me, everything changed in 2024 because I don't know if you can see it, but like I cut off. You can see it on the camera. Like you see that right there. I cut off part of my ear. Okay. Like I had part of my ear lopped off, and when that assassination attempt took place, I was like, man, this is scary times in this country. And then 6 days later, he removes the bandage. There's nothing wrong with his ear. That you can see that little, like right here. You can see it in the camera. Yeah. It took months for that to heal with stitches. And like, it doesn't heal in 6 days. So like that for me was kind of like, and then I talked to, people and I'm like, in the beginning, I was like, this is like, they were like, this is fake. Cause when I watched it, I'm like, this is WWE. Yeah. And then I'm like, I can't talk like that in the public. Like you can't do that. And then 6 days later, I'm like, okay, it's WWE, but like, what's the purpose? And like, oh, it's leading people to God. Like, that's not how God works, guys. God doesn't deceive you to follow him. That's what the other guy does. Well,
then maybe that's who they're working for, because it seems to have a lot of fingerprints. I mean, it's undeniable. There is a ton of deception. And I think that people are the normies are starting to ask some questions, maybe not enough questions or
good ones,
not good ones, but they're starting to feel like, well, the people there was always a group who was clearly against Donald Trump. No, nothing he would do would ever make them happy. there was true Trump derangement syndrome. But then there was another category of people who would defend him at all costs. And to watch those people peel away and to have this war be the thing that did it for them has been, I suppose, a bright spot. I don't know what you do with those people now, though, because they're probably not going to go to the left. They're not interested in that side, but they can't be with Trump anymore. So are they free agents? Are they what do you do with that segment?
They might just be lost. Like people I talk to I was very politically involved. I didn't vote in our most recent elections. I'm not going to waste my time doing this anymore. It's I'm not going to stop, or getting hours away from when I can earn money for my family to go vote for somebody who's never going to have my best intentions in line. I think that's the move. And I think the move is to completely disenfranchise the American voter so that we get tired of doing it, so that they're like, what the best solution is? Complete deniable plausibility through AI. Let's just let the computers run it all. That has to be the end game.
It has to be. But these politicians, each one is less impressive than the one before him. Look at everybody running countries in Europe. All the WEF young global leaders are disasters. Just complete, almost like they came out of a factory or something and they were installed to infuse a sense of helplessness and hopelessness inside the people of their countries, because you had them running the op during COVID, and they were all catastrophic failures. You watched what it physically did to people like Jacinda Ardern. I don't know if you've seen the before and after pictures of her.
Yeah.
Evil eats away at your physical body, right?
Well, except one part of her body.
Yeah. So after all of this, I wonder if that is the play, that you get to the point where you go, how much worse could the computer be? Right. I mean, at least we know the computer isn't going to go to Epstein's Island. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be better than what we currently have. And I remind people when they say that, oh, you go to, you're the MC of Anarchapulco, the largest anarchist conference in the world. I remind people when they get clear on the concept, the term anarchy, it doesn't mean no rules. It means no rulers. And best advertisement for anarchy ever has been the last 10 years, the cast of rulers, right? You see them and you go, we can do better. You can do better. But the answer isn't let's outsource it to the machine, because then the question is who programmed the machine? And then do we get into a place where we have a priest class who is only allowed to talk to the machine, right? You can't talk to the machine. You have to talk to the priest, and then the priest will talk to the machine. And now we've got a whole nother hierarchy.
And you nailed it with your language, because that's how it'll be embedded. But yes, we have to follow. You and I are very big Hegelian dialectic guys. Like, what is the dialectic today? And right now there's 50,000 dialectics happening simultaneously across the internet. And they're happening in big waves, and they're extremely obvious. So if they're extremely obvious, they're usually at the end, because when they begin, they're hard to see. You're like, well, maybe it's that guy. No, that guy's working for the same people, and they're just playing good cop, bad cop. The dialectic has always been total tyranny. That has been the desire of the world leaders from inception of the world. They're lazy and stupid. We know that. So at the same time, they want to be powerful, lazy, and stupid, and omnipotently powerful, which means that they would embed this. Why else would Palantir have just signed a contract with the IRS to make audits easier when we have the president saying there's going to be no more income tax? And there may not be. I think we're living at the end of the need for a central bank for control. And these central banks have been building crypto rails for 9 years. They've been building them. So this whole move to crypto, that's a great way for the Hegelian dialectic to say, well, Trump was the guy who ended central banks, even though central banks are ending themselves. Yeah. He'll take credit. He's taking credit for everything. So I'm going to make this very clear. I was a huge Trump supporter, and I just don't support anyone anymore. I mean, that's one thing that I've learned. But I didn't vote in 2016 at all because I lived in California, and voting for Trump was a complete waste of my time in California. All those votes, it was 80% went to Hillary. I voted in 2020. I voted in 2024. I worked on campaigns. I did all this stuff. I am not seeing, what I'm seeing is a guy putting his name on everything, including dollar bills. And we were talking about this off camera because I don't know how real this article is. It's an actual article written on a website, but apparently Trump was quoted in saying he wants to go back to sound money. Fantastic. Great. Let's do that. You know, the Bitcoin guys think if you change the money, you change the world. I think if you change the money, you change the money. I don't think you change the hearts and minds of people by having sound money. That comes through many other different things. But at the same time, his suggestion was to get rid of paper money. Good, kind of. But paper money is your only form of privacy, by the way. Cash is still king if you want privacy. There's nothing electronic that's private. I don't care if they call it a privacy coin. Someone knows you're making a transaction. But his solution was to make the Trump coin the digital currency of America, the Trump coin, a meme coin on federal wallets, governments by the federal government. So in order to use the Trump coin, you have to have a federal government wallet and gold coins. Like, so this just came out, and I just want to put this out here, Charlie. A meme coin with a federal wallet is a CBDC. Okay, yes. That's just what it is. Gold coins in the pockets of Americans with 500 million guns and no one with any money is the worst solution for humanity. Because if Christ wasn't living in my heart and I was an evil person, I would be voting for I would go to the voting polls. I would go like, yes, please put gold in every idiot's pocket. I'll go get 3 more 9mm. I'll be the richest guy on the block by the end of the year. Yeah. These are terrible ideas. CBDC or gold coins? I guess gold coins is a better choice, but I'm going to have to walk around with an AR-15 the whole rest of my life.
You know what is a great sort of middle ground there are gold backs. Do you have any gold backs?
I do. Yeah.
Get some gold backs. That's a compromise, but still it's, the idea, what are you going to put it? You're going to put the economy on the Trump coin and then wake up tomorrow and decide you want to 10x the supply of coins and devalue everybody's currency. I mean, not that they don't currently do that every day.
He owns 80% of the coin, by the way, 80%.
Oh, good. Yeah. What could possibly go wrong? So no, this is narcissism at a level that I haven't seen in quite some time. This mental illness that's happening. It's end of empire. It's almost like you feel like maybe, what's the point of it? Maybe the point is to just demoralize you, to just have you thinking about the possibility of like, is this guy really good? I mean, it sounds like something he would do, put his face on the $1,000 bill or something like that, and
you can get a loaf of bread by that time.
Right. Yeah. So it's cartoonish. Somebody put a tweet up that I retweeted. It was a split screen with 2 videos running simultaneously. One was Boris Yeltsin doing his stuff, him and Haw drinking and partying on the dance floor. And the other one was Trump doing his stuff.
The same move.
The Trump dance. And, it's like, you bring in the clowns at the end of the empire. This is where we are in this portion of the show. Like we're at the part where it's like, well, let's just try to keep them laughing while we steal everything that isn't nailed down at the end of a fourth turning at the end of the American empire as we pivot to a technocracy. Like let's just grab everything we can get and distract the masses with bread and circuses and disappear to our bunkers and let them figure it out.
And talk about God all the time with a bunch of heretics that preach prosperity gospel, right? Like Paula White's the perfect person to put in there because she's going to, she said, I'll never question Trump. He's anointed by God. So that gets a certain segment to like never question him because he's anointed by God. And then she's going to talk about all the stuff we're going through. It's like her whole model is send me $100,000 and you'll get God will give you 10 million back. That's not anywhere in the Bible, but like you put these things together and you have the ultimate and the end of an empire. Like this is what we've talked about in all of our episodes. We are moving towards a technocracy. There is no denying that. When you have, big tech oligarchs that like you and I were just on a call with Desiree Townsend before we did this. Like she's telling us what's happening in DC. In DC, the tech bros and the oligarchs are controlling Congress, and it's not even unobvious. It's super overt. Everyone can see it. They want the illegals here so they can keep driving Ubers and DoorDashes because Americans are buying these cars, and you can see it. I go to Palm Beach every year. I go to Destin, Florida with my family every summer. Every time we get in an Uber at the airport, it's always some dude who doesn't speak English in a $100,000 Escalade. Like, how did this guy, I can't buy this car. How did this guy buy this car? And this is a whole new industry. Like you said, it's the medallions, like the new taxi medallions. It's just the foreigners driving it. And they don't need to speak English. All you have to do is look at the screen and it'll take you right to your house. So like we live in this era. So clearly technocracy is coming. Yeah. Whether it may not be a bad thing, right? It'll probably be more restful than what we're dealing with now. but they have to sell it. They have to sell it. They're embedding it now. Flock cameras are going. Somebody told me like 4,000 new flock cameras go up every day in America. 4,000 flock cameras.
A huge problem.
Huge. Now I met a guy, and I don't know him well enough. I'd probably throw his name out there. You probably know who he is. He's a founder of a bunch of stuff. I met him in like 2010 or something in La Jolla, California. I was going to do a joint venture with him, and I go, "What are you working on?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm working on this." This is how technology works, Charlie. This is just one of the funniest stories ever. I'm working on this new social network, which back then was like a big thing, you know? And I'm like, oh, cool. What's your social network? He goes, it's linking people together with license plates. And I'm like, that's honestly the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He's like, no, it's really cool. Look at our video. And it's like a guy pulls up next to a hot chick in a convertible. And he's like, oh, I want to talk to this chick. And I'm just going to let her go first. And he writes down her license plate number, looks her up on the social media, and they connect and they go on a date. And I'm like, so how are you getting people's driver or their license plates? And he was like, oh, we cut a deal with all the shopping malls in California. When you drive into the shopping mall, it scans your license plate and builds a profile. I'm like, do you work for, I literally said this. I go, this is some CIA stuff. Do you work for the CIA or something? He's like, no, that's ridiculous. And like right away, I was like, okay, he works for the CIA.
Yeah.
Like this is how they sell it to us. So that's been around since 2010. Your license plate's being scanned. Your retina's being scanned against your will. You have AI dossiers being built. They just told you this. They told you Palantir is building dossiers on illegal immigrants. You think that's not happening to you? You're a fool. So how do you sell this, Charlie? You have to sell it with like, it is the end of the empire. America does control the globe at this point in time. That's not going to last. Never has. So you break it into the 10 kingdoms from the Club of Rome, World Economic Forum, the Technate, whatever you want. Those were already aligned. Show me one plan that was revealed 80 years in advance, Charlie, in all of history that didn't come to fruition, because it's been this way for 1,000 years.
I know.
So how do you sell that? You sell it with like the guy who made the transition from empire to regional power less painful and more entertaining. That's how you sell it. And if he can't do it, because like, you know, I was talking to a Q guy the other day, and I'm like, maybe I've never bashed anybody. Like I totally believed in it for a while too. Like, well, I believe that it was like a disclosure thing. I don't know about a plan. I've never always said that. I don't eat popcorn and watch stuff. I'm an active guy. But I said, at this juncture in history, let's just say Donald Trump saves the world. No one's going to believe him. Nobody. Like if all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, I totally had all this stuff planned and I tricked all of you into thinking this was just a movie, but what I was doing was conquering the deep state cabal and all the secret societies that have run the world for 2,000 years. I did it myself. No one is, even if it really happened, no one will believe it.
Right.
So like that's out the window to me. But what really does make sense is that he comes in, and what I've talked about on your show, this move towards like growth of the rebirth of the Catholic Church, is you have Zionism gets exposed. Zionism gets linked to Protestantism because evangelicals are Protestants. It drives people back into the beast. The beast then becomes the social order control of the world, while technocracy is embedded all throughout the universe. And we're on complete lockdown. But you know what? We're doing it for God. That's what's happening. Oh, the environment. We can protect the environment because we have quantum AI networks right now that are going to monitor the environment. Like, I don't know if you watch Paradise. The show, you should. It's actually it's kind of hurt, but it's good. And they just introduced the quantum computer, and the lady's like, we already solved the environmental problem with the quantum computer. So like the programming doesn't stop. The predictive programming goes on, and I think that what we're watching is this like Christian nationalism is the disguise for a technocracy. Because if you get people worried about eschatology and God, and like one people defending Israel, one people defending the word of God, one people defending their church. You have all these people defending everything. Well, the one thing they're not defending is their own privacy and security. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The new age,
back door open.
Control by comfort, not by fear. That is the future. Comfort is we did all this stuff because we're rededicating the country to God, and we're bringing religion back to America. Nobody should want religion. You should want faith. And faith is interpersonal. It's not something that can be mandated from a government. It's something you have to be part of yourself. And when you have all this propaganda, this language being spewed, the writing on the wall becomes so clear. You don't need the blue light to see the writing on the wall anymore. It's just like in hyper fluorescent pink spray paint on a black wall. You can see it now. And I hope people guard their hearts. I hope people find God. And I hope that people learn that, you know, going back to the old ways of things can be a modern transition. Like, I don't want cash to go away.
No.
Cash is the only form of privacy we have, Charlie.
Cash Fridays. That's what Catherine Austin Fitts has been talking about for a while. Yeah, we need to retain that. Not everything needs to evolve to the new form. There's some things that, and that's what guys in our, you know, or people in our age range, like I'm Gen X, so like I'm like straight in the middle of it, and I know what it was like in an analog world, and now have been living in this digital world. So I still want to retain some of that old stuff, you know, that I remember. But there's going to be a time when that's sort of in the past and everything is digital, and we have to be careful with that. Like we don't have to dwell or make ourselves terrified of an impending technocracy, but you do need to be aware of it, that could happen. And that when everything is digital, you mentioned the BIS building out the crypto rail system, like if they have it their way, they'll control everything. You have to try and keep a foot out of this if you can in the analog world, whatever that looks like to you. Maybe it just means at this point, turning off your devices and going for a walk. I don't know. Maybe at some point you can't do that. Reconnecting with your family and remembering what matters. But I'll tell you, if they're going to propagandize you, it's going to come from these devices. Okay. Yep. They're going to use that. So the less time you're involved in it, and I kind of have to be for my line of work with activist posts and everything, I'm reading articles all day long. I'm doing this, but where I can get away from it, it's important to do that. And it's important, especially in this time of uncertainty, to not allow yourself to be fearful. You'll make short-term decisions and you don't want that. You know, like, don't allow these monsters to get you to give away your sovereignty. Don't let them turn you hateful, because they're doing that. They're working on your algorithm big time to make you hate a lot of people that aren't like you. And just remember what's important, man. You keep that in front of your mind for now. And, you know, you're in charge of your happiness. You know, there's some things that are external to it that you're not going to have a say in, but by and large, you get to decide how you're going to live your life and how you're going to do it. And you can be aware of this information, but not let it inundate you and not let it poison you. You know about it, but don't let it impact you negatively. Maybe shield your family from some of this stuff. I mean, I don't know about you, but I there's a lot of stuff that I know that I don't dump on them, because it's not going to help them. And so I just keep it for myself. So whatever you need to do it. So this is a really pivotal time, you know, it feels like a real crossroads. And that was the underlying theme that I got in Mexico back the middle of February when I was emceeing in Acapulco. I kept talking to people. I was there all for the whole week, and in and off the stage, you know, I would get into conversations with people, and the common denominator was that a lot of them felt like they were at a crossroads in their life. They were looking for something. They knew they needed something. They weren't sure what. It was a person or a job, or they needed to move. They needed to have that interaction, that connection, and they knew they wanted to put themselves in a position for something great to happen. So I think that we need to know what's going on in the world, but don't let it ruin your life. You know, remember what's important, you know, and take care of your friends and your family, and reach out to, you know, to those people who want your advice or information about this, you know, provide it to them. But for those who want to fight and argue with you about this, boy, you just got to prioritize your energy. It's like, you know what, you can believe what you need to believe, man. That's fine. I'm not trying to sell you on anything, but I'm going to talk to the people who connect with me, not who want to argue with me. And I'm going to make that a priority in my life. And I'll watch what's going on the TV and on my computer, and I'll be informed, but I don't want to be overwhelmed by it. I don't think it serves me in the end.
Yeah, I've got a friend, Dave. I'm just going to advise you to not be Dave. Dave texts me 2, sometimes 5 times a day, and I know what's happening is Dave. I'm not going to say his last name. You're watching. I know you're watching. So Dave, stop being Dave. Dave goes on Twitter, and Dave sees something that angers him. And he immediately texts me and goes, "Have you seen this crap? Do you believe it?" And I'm like, "Of course I believe it." Like, what am I going to do? Like, in reality, what am I going to do? I'm not going to stop politicians from making bad decisions, stealing from the government. I'm not going to, there's nothing I can do to stop that. I can keep talking about it and be kind to other people and get them aware of it and get them to pull themselves out of the system as best I possibly can. But don't be Dave. Every day, he's just reactionary. You know, like, you got to understand that what you're living through. I think it was one of the Russian leaders came out the other day with the most like Captain Obvious statement I've ever heard in my life, where he's like, we're in the middle of a transition of global power and there are many factions fighting for power at this moment. Like, no kidding, man. I hadn't noticed. That is exactly what's happening right now. There, you know, I love hearing people going, the old guard is being destroyed and a new guard. Well, yeah, that's also happening, but I'm not a member of either one of those guards. I'm just some pleb in the middle of nowhere wearing a hoodie talking to my friend Charlie. That's all I am. And the best I can do is build a community around me and a strong family that understands that, like you're doing with your kids. I want you to ask questions and challenge what's happening, because if nothing else, seeking the truth is a godlike trait. Like, you need to seek that truth. That is something God wants you to do. But at the end of the day, don't be Dave. Don't
Sorry, Dave.
Sorry, Dave.
I get it. Social
totally
media
ragging
makes
on it.
everybody crazy. They do that for a reason, Dave. It's not just you. It's happening to everybody. But
you are the target. Yes.
take a breath. Realize that your algorithm is specifically trying to make you mad. The madder you are, the longer you're going to stay on that site. It's like with the Howard Stern movie. Remember when they said the people who like him listen for 100 minutes, the people who hate him listen for 250 minutes?
Yep.
Yes. And so be aware, be mindful of the magician's trick. And then you know what happens? It doesn't have the power over you that it used to have. As long as once you're aware of it, you can mitigate that. So Dave, we're not picking on you, but because we're all Daves at some level. You want to do it, but I've come to understand over time, I'm being manipulated. I'm being kind of made to see this and feel a certain way. Okay, I'll diffuse that by recognizing it and not allowing that to happen to me.
That's literally all you can do.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you're going to have a happy life no matter what comes down the road. It's important to know, to prepare. But I think at the same time, Charlie, I'm picking on Dave. Dave, I will see you next weekend, and I'm so totally picking on you on air. And thankfully, I don't have the same audience that Charlie has, so not as many people are embarrassed that you do this. But many, you're not the only one, by the way. If I had to take a roundabout guess, I would say 5 to 10 million Americans do the same thing every day. Every day, check Twitter, get angry, text their friends. Can you believe this? How do we? I don't know how to. If I knew how to stop it, I'd be doing that. But there's no way to stop it. I also agree with some things in prophecy. Like, I don't believe in synergism. There's nothing I can do to speed up or slow down God's prophecy, but it's going to happen no matter what. And eventually the world ends. So yeah, that's going to happen. Best I can do is do my best in those days before my days are over to make people's lives better, to help, to love, to
be a good person in the now, today. Yeah. To the extent that you can, with the people that you can influence and the people that you can be nice to, be nice to your friends, be nice to your animals, be a good person, put that out into the world. It doesn't always come back. But that's not on you. You just put it out.
Well, Charlie, this is, first of all, always have a good time talking.
Always a good talk. I know.
We've never met in person.
But if I had to pick the road trip guys, you'd be in my road trip car for sure.
We got to do it. Because it wouldn't even matter where we go.
I know.
The journey would be fun. And wherever we got to,
there's a metaphor in there somewhere.
All we would do is what I did in, I just went to Italy. So I call it the Black Nobility Tour. The only city I missed was Genoa. So I went to Venice, Florence, and Rome.
Nice.
And it was totally.
You're on a watch list now.
Oh, I'm 100, especially after going to the Vatican. I'm on 100% watch list. I'm doing a Vatican episode eventually to walk through the things that I saw and heard. So not conspiracy theory, things they said. But it is interesting to see that, like, you think you can change the world, but then you go to Italy. And if you understand symbolism, you will see that every restaurant you go to has a family crest of one of the 13 families that are the Black nobility. Like, they own everything. Every little tiny restaurant has a little, like, why is there fleur-de-lis why is there a French fleur-de-lis in the middle of Italy? And you're like, oh, that's the Orsini family crest. They own all this stuff. There's not a whole lot we can do to change it except defy them. but you and I would arrive on a road trip, and we would go to like Little Rock, Arkansas, and we would be noticing this stuff and just cracking up about it while everybody's like, who are these guys?
My friend Tony Ardburn went on a road trip with his son, and I'm like, where'd you go? He said, Bill Cooper's grave. I was like, is that where he's like, that's where we went. That was the point of the trip. I was like, that's funny. He goes, sometimes you have to pick an obscure, thing that you're going after.
It was kind of like me winding up in Pope John III's Counter-Reformation planning room. I'm like, how did I end up here? This is just kind of cool. Like,
yeah,
history is amazing. History is people are most ignorant on history, despite the fact they think they know, because they haven't looked at they don't question history. Oh, I was taught that in school. And that's how we began the show, is like, question everything, believe nothing until you can verify it on your own. And at the end of the day, build your tribe. Like, you got to have your tribe in life. You've got to have people that you can turn to and ask difficult questions, who know things that you don't. And I know that there's a lot of people who love being the big fish in the little pond. Like, I'm the smartest guy in the room. If that's you're like, get out of that room. Get into a room where you're the dumbest guy in the room, or the middle of the road. Yeah.
Go to Acapulco. That's where you want to feel like I spent 5 days there introducing everybody on and off the stage. I got a chance to chat with just about everybody there. You're going to be so inspired by people who are so smart, building outside of the system and doing things that you had never even comprehended. You'd never even considered doing this. And they're just like you, and they're approachable, and they're doing cool stuff.
Normal guys.
Man. Yeah.
So the last time I went to Acapulco, I had an investor in Acapulco, the only time I've ever been. I got picked up in an armored car at the airport with 3 guys with machine guns. And I had to stay in this guy's hotel, and there was an armored guard out front of it. And I went to only the restaurants and clubs that he owned. Every one of them had a guy with a shotgun at the front door. How does that work out there? Do you guys feel, I felt safe, but I was like, if I wasn't working with this investor, like, I would be scared to be here. Like, is it scary when you go there?
No, well, this year they moved it to Puerto Vallarta. So it actually this was the 12th year of an Acapulco, but it was the first time it had moved outside of Acapulco. No, I've never had any issues in Acapulco either. It's a little bit more, we're not in the touristy spot. We were sort of in a more authentic area, a town where, it's like dirt roads and things like that, where and the event was held at this botanical garden, which was a killer place that had all these little boutique hotels around it. So it was a great place in Acapulco, and it was right next to the airport. So there wasn't a whole lot of incidental travel that was going on. So if there were pockets of Acapulco that were dangerous or scary, according to the CIA, it's the number 3 most dangerous city in the world. So, but I never saw any of that. In fact, the Acapulco team was so involved in the community that the city of Acapulco gave them an award in the aftermath of the hurricanes, because they did so much to help with the hurricanes. So I don't think that the cartels or the governments viewed the Acapulco community as a negative or a threat or anything like that.
That's
so
a conference.
we were never bothering anyone. We were left alone. Ironically, though, we go to Puerto Vallarta the day after I leave. Cars are lit on fire and buses are lit on fire, and they had the whole.
Oh, is that right at the when they killed El Mencho?
Yeah, that happened on Sunday. The event ended on Friday, so I got on a plane. I was out of there Saturday, but the part of the event was still going on. There was a second component of it that was happening Saturday and Sunday. So there were a lot of people that I knew who were there in Puerto Vallarta, came out of our hotel. And their taxi's on fire right in front of our Holiday Inn. I wasn't there. I was getting it secondhand from everybody who was still there. But yeah, so we had a little extra excitement with that. But typically in Acapulco, the conference is fantastic. And the truth is, it's sort of evolved into more of a health and wellness conference than anything. I mean, there's
That's
a lot
the ultimate anarchy, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Really
That's it. That's what you ultimately find. The crypto component is privacy coins, and and then there's a huge health and wellness.
I'm just going to expose that.
Right, but that angle, as opposed to dog wearing a hat on a rocket or something, whatever the coin is of the day.
Poop coin.
So they're trying to do something like build outside parallel systems outside of this. Let's do something that's homeschoolers were there, a lot of the unschoolers and homeschoolers and things like that. So yeah, that's the ultimate anarchy: is take care of yourself, take care of your own food. The farmers were there talking to everybody. Take care of your, the schooling of your kids. Take care of your money. Take care of whatever you can. Keep it internal, and don't let the government, get involved in your affairs to the extent that you can. So always,
it sounds like the old way of living. Like anarchy now is just going back to the way it was 50 years ago. That's anarchy.
But that's terrifying for a lot of people. Unfortunately, a lot of people want to blame somebody else for their problem. They don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to do the work. They want something done for them. Well, the anarchist community is different. They're very proactive. Just not sitting around waiting for the government to give them anything. Certainly not handouts. They don't want anything to do with them. So they're of the opinion that we got to do it ourselves. So that's why you get builders, not destroyers, at that conference. You get a lot of guys that it's not that there's anything wrong with like the Lambo crypto guys or anything, but it's not them.
Right.
That's not the group that's there. These are the guys that maybe have
Lambo crypto guys are super annoying. So
yeah. And that's not they're not they go to other conferences, but they're not at an Acapulco.
I gotta go next year, man.
Yeah, it's a look. And worst case scenario, you're in Mexico in February. Like how bad can that be? So but what it is you're around.
Worst case scenario, I'm on another list. That's the worst.
Well, you're definitely on the list. I would sort of start off the week with that, like, hey, how many first timers? You're on a list. Have fun getting through TSA on your way home. You're gonna get the secondary screening now. But that's the fun of it, is that the demographics are all over the place. A lot of older people. Sure. You might not expect that. A lot of Australians, a lot of Canadians come to these events. So if you're feeling disconnected from the world and your tribe, and you want to be in Mexico in February, and Acapulco is always a great adventure for people. I'm
in next year. You've talked to me about this multiple times, yes. and now I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. No more stupid business conferences. I want to go listen to crazy people growing their own food. Super crazy. Grow your own food.
It's the best networking conference you'll go to. There's all sorts of businesses being launched there. It is a business conference. Yeah, it's just disguised as an anarchy conference.
And here's the interesting thing. So I get back from Italy. I go to Italy. I've never been to Europe, so I was pretty excited about it. Like, and I have roots in Italy. I'm part Italian, but like I'm in this place, and when I'm at home, I ruck or run or do long walks every day, and I eat dinner. Like that's it. I just eat dinner. I have a handful of mixed nuts around lunchtime if I'm hungry. Most of the time I'm not. I just eat dinner. I get 15,000 steps a day. I go to Italy. I get 12,000 steps a day. I eat 3 meals a day of pizza, pasta, steak, and gelato. I probably had gelato 14 times in 7 days. I lost 7 pounds. I put it on Twitter. This is the most fascinating thing. That's a simple fact. Like, that's just a fact. I'm not trying to explain the science or the metaphysics behind this. I'm just telling you, I went on a trip. I ate like a pig. The food was incredible, and I lost weight. That's all I did. And I said, we're being poisoned in our food. Put it on Twitter. It got 1.8 million views. I have a little account. 1.8 million views.
That's crazy.
I would say 50% of those comments in there were people like, you're such a liar. That didn't happen. And I'm like,
well, I don't lie about that on Twitter. It's such a weird thing to do.
One guy called me Fatty McFatterson or something. Like, it was hilarious listening to these comments. I'm like, bro, I'm 6'1", 195. I'm certainly not Brad Pitt in Fight Club, but I'm also not Fatty McFatterson. Nor do I care, because I laughed out loud. I was like, that's awesome. I kind of like a good troll. But it was fascinating to me to see 50% of the population doesn't believe that we're being poisoned with our food. At least 50%. How do you not know you're being, everything you have, even if you're buying meat at the grocery store, it was processed by a butcher. Everything is processed. Go eat fresh flour from the Tuscan region while you're in Florence and pizza. That pizza, you're not full. You're never like, oh, I have so much food in my stomach. You want to go do stuff. Everything is clean, and you come home and you feel amazing. Yeah. Until you eat them. Like the meal I ate on the plane made my entire family's stomach hurt for like 45 minutes. The first processed food we ate. It was just amazing. So like, I would love to go to that. I would love to go to listen to homegrown homeschooling anarchos who are trying to find crypto solutions and all that kind of stuff. I love that.
Never thought I would talk to so many farmers in my life.
I talk to them all the time. They're great people.
I know.
Ranchers too. Like the animal guys are even cooler.
Yeah. Things have changed. The what I thought was you know, balling out when I was younger, it's totally different now. Balling out is having a farm. Totally. You know what I mean? Like that's the goal. Like you don't need you don't need to get a castle. Get yourself a cool farm, you know, with and I spent a lot of time with Curtis Stone, who runs something called Freedom Farmers, and he helps people pick out homesteads. They have a whole you know, I'm 30 years in real estate. He's got a real estate database that's just homesteads. And people,
really?
You can shave a lot of time off your search if you're a member of his group. And he's helped 6,000 different people buy farms through his network.
I want to talk to him next year. I think next year, the equity in my house will be at a point where I can 1031 into a homestead and not have to put up any cash. I would definitely be interested in that.
And the process for the criteria for what you need to know, what you're looking for, the things that you would never have thought to ask. He's got all that figured out already. So it shaves just a ton of money, time, frustration off your learning curve. Yeah. And so that's what I was talking to him about. He's like, you know, he's got a big network of people that want to do that. But, you know, you don't want to start from the beginning and like, how do I do that? You know, these guys can show you how to do it. So that's the thing. There's a lot of education happening there. Yeah. You'd love it. You'd just be your...
Charlie, I'm a half hour over time with you, man. I apologize for that. We just kept going. It's not mine. I'm good. I booked 2 hours. I know you do 1 hour. So we'll have to do this again very soon here on your show, whatever. I'm going to call you after this because I told you I have a story. I have to tell you that I can't tell you here.
Yes.
And I'm going to call you right now. So let everybody know how they can follow you, where they can get a hold of you, get in touch, how they can keep up with you. Most people who are watching this already know who you are, but you know, run that through.
Macroaggressions is my podcast. It goes out in audio format everywhere. In video format, I just got my YouTube channel back. So if you find it there, it's like building a channel on quicksand. So whatever. But macroaggressions.io is my website. I have a news website called Activist Post. It was in operation for 15 years before they reached out to me. I bought it in January of 2025. I took control of it. So if you're interested in getting your news from a place that is unbiased, the only person who would be censoring it would be me, and that's not going to happen. So activistpost.com is a great place. Thanks, Eric. I'll talk to you later.
You got it. As always, God bless you, my friend. God bless this country. We'll see you next time here on The Rice Report. Have a good one, everybody.